Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 12 of the Giro d'Italia, brought to you by Bicycle, the largest global marketplace for pre-owned bikes. With over 20,000 high-quality pre-owned and refurbished bikes available, Bicycle connects the buyers and sellers to make the process of buying and selling safe, easy, and convenient. Remember, sellers, to use the code ButterflyEffect24 for 0% seller fee. Now let's get into today's race because it's going to blow up all over the place. Guys, we got about 193 kilometers. We'll call it 120 miles in length with 5 categorized climbs, but forget the categorized climbs because I'm not even going to bring them up because really there's like 8 to 11 climbs. All super hard, super stiff, 1K, 2K, smaller climbs, but super stiff. And the last climb is going to start with about 11 kilometers to go, 1.5 kilometers. How many times has the Giro had 1.5 kilometers at the finish or near the finish of Giro stages? It's happened often, and today is another one on stage 12. Only difference is with this 1.5 kilometers, this one is got 20% sections at the finish of today's stage 12. That's going to summit, we'll call it about 9.5, 10 kilometers, depending on how it rolls out. After 11 kilometers it starts. Then you drop down, super narrow, twisty, technical section. Come out on the bigger roads with 5 kilometers to go, but still lots of roundabouts all the way in the finish. So it's going to be a marvelous race. Make sure you guys tune in. All of this race was fantastic, all 193 kilometers. Now, when I flip on the screen, we're going to see the Eurosport commentators, and they're arguing about yesterday's finish with Tim Miller. Robbie McEwen's arguing that Bert van Leeuwenburg didn't do the right lead out for his man Tim Miller because he went down the middle. Robbie, come on, man, you're a green jersey wearer. I love catching you wrong because you're always right. We used to be teammates, but you're wrong here. Bert van Leeuwenburg did not do the lead out wrong. He was money, Robbie, money. He got him into 200 meters to go, straight down the road, dropped him off. Tim Miller just had to have the legs and go all the way to the finish. Instead, Tim Miller went all the way to the right. He hooked Milano, held up, got relegated, and lost it. That's the way it goes. Now, why is Bert van Leeuwenburg right? Well, it was chaos back there, Robbie. He didn't have the choice to go right side or left side on the road. And I understand what you're saying. It's always best to, if you're leading out a sprinter, to go one side or the other side. But I've seen many sprinters win when you get dropped off at 200 meters to go, and your lead out man did a fine job of coming from the back all the way around the side, having chaos all over the place. So Robbie McEwen's wrong here when he's blaming Bert van Leeuwenburg. And he's wrong when he says he doesn't think Tim Miller should be relegated, because he absolutely should have. When we're going straight down the road, once a sprinter has a clean line going straight, he's got to go straight. We hear Adam Blythe say, well, you know, if we blamed everyone for going right or left, that's not the way the rule's written up, Adam Blythe. The rule's written up so that when the sprinter starts his sprint and it's clean road in front of him, he has to hold his line and go straight to the finish line. Otherwise, he's wrong. If the road's got a bend or something, of course, then you would jump into the shortest direction line possible if it was a right turn there, but it wasn't right, Adam Blythe. That's why Ola right there, the Eurosport commentator, she's the one that's 100% right, and Dan Lloyd is 100% right. How many times do I agree with Dan Lloyd? But Dan Lloyd, you were money on this call right here, and you and Ola certainly had it right. While the green jersey winner from the Tour de France, Robbie McEwen, come on, man, sharpen your stuff up. Now, let's get into today's stage. As we see the interview from Tim Miller, he's saying there was no harm from him going right to left, so he shouldn't be relegated. Of course there was. Look back there at Milano flying up on your side where Milano had to hit the brakes. The only reason why you didn't cause a crash, Tim Miller, is because Milano was wise enough, the UAE Team Emirates rider, to back off the throttle and not cause a crash, and that's why we saw Milano so upset, and that's why you were relegated, rightly so. Now we're going to hit kilometer 0. The race is going to start. Right away, it's going crazy. Arkea Samsic's attacking up the road. Bahrain Victorious is following it. Whew, should save your legs, Bahrain Victorious, because later in the stage, you're going to need those. But Arkea Samsic's going. What I want to point out right now is we'll see Soudal Quickstep. They're covering everything. I saw Bert van Leeuwenburg covering moves. Luc Lamperti was covering moves. Peter Siri was covering moves. They were money throughout the first part of the 60 kilometers of this stage 12. Money. Julian Alaphilippe didn't have to do anything, much like I said the Frenchman did on stage 10. Now on stage 10, he got in the break. Then he was feeling bad. We saw him at the medical car and dropped out, so he didn't get to win the stage. But they did the same tactic here on stage 12 that we saw on stage 10, where Julian Alaphilippe didn't have to cover anything because it's the first 60 kilometers that are flat. So Luc Lamperti, Bert van Leeuwenburg, the amazing lead-out man on yesterday's stage for Tim Miller. Robbie, I'm sure you guys caught that one, right? Bert van Leeuwenburg, you were money. Money yesterday, money today. That's what Quick-Step's doing. They're doing a fantastic job of covering and bringing everything back. And then as we come into about 140 kilometers to go, Peloton's going to make a left turn. They're going to leave the coast and start going uphill. At this moment, we got 4 riders in the front group, and one of them is Mikko Maestri there, the Pulte Cometa rider, as he's in a group with 3 other riders there to make 4. They got about a minute gap. Pseudo Quick-Step did everything, like I said, correct. These 4 guys going up the road, they're breakaway specialists, but it's going to start climbing. And then once we start going up the hill, Julian Alaphilippe throws in a vicious attack going from the left side. You see where the road or the driveway opens up there. He passes the front end of the peloton. That was curb to curb, flies out, hits the speed bump, and keeps on the accelerator and starts throwing down. And he's got Jonathan Narvaez there from Ineos. He's got a small group with him, and we'll see Julian Alaphilippe and Ewan Costu there from Arkea Samsic, who's having a fine Giro d'Italia and a fine 2024 season for the Frenchman from Arkea. He starts throwing down the pedals too. Julian Alaphilippe's there being aggressive. We got a group 5-6 guys, and we got some more guys coming up. Next thing you know, we got 9 guys up there and 4 guys up the road. But Julian Alaphilippe bridged this gap really quick up to the 4 guys along with the companions that he had in his breakaway. So we got a solid group. We'll call it 10-15 guys up here at this moment. The group's going to be amazing. Don't worry about it. We'll start getting a little more accurate with the details here soon as Julian Alaphilippe's motivated in this group. Then we see 10 more guys chasing. Before those 10 up there, though, look at Pelea Sanchez. He won a stage here at the Giro d'Italia. Remember that Gravelstone day? That's this guy right here, Sanchez, as he bridged across solo as he gets up there to Julian Alaphilippe's group. And then there's still another 9-10 coming behind there. When we start looking at this group that's forming about 20 guys, though, Julian Alaphilippe's in this group. No teammates for the Frenchman from Pseudo Quick-Step at all. We go back down and look at the peloton spread across the road. UAE team members are sitting 2nd and 3rd row, though, so they're a little bit blocked. And it's the race leader here in the pink jersey, Tadej Pogačar, sitting 3rd row. But he's got a couple teammates around him, but they're still blocked. Then all of a sudden we see another like 15, 20 guys attacking out of the peloton. UAE team members are back there. They're letting it happen. No problem. We see the 15, 20. They're chasing the group in front. But guess what? Julian Alaphilippe threw in his next attack with 126 kilometers to go, and it's Maestri up there from Pulte Cometa with him. These 2 riders are going up the road, and when we look at the 20 that just came out of the peloton, there's 2 Pseudo Quick-Step guys in there. One's Jan Hertz. The other one's Mari van Savenoff, my old teammate's son, from Lotto, Robbie McEwen's guy. We did all Tour de France, all 3 of us together right here. That's why I got the green jersey. But as we start seeing this group of 15, 20 coming up to the other group that Julian Alaphilippe just dislodged, I'm sitting on the chest film like, what's Pseudo Quick-Step doing right here? Julian Alaphilippe's going up the road with one other guy with 126 kilometers to go. And we look at the back and we see, of course, that there's Narvaez in there from Ineos. But you look at the 3rd group now, that's Filippo Ganna. And Filippo Ganna's getting some help from Jan Hertz back there and getting some help from Mari van Savenoff coming through, rotating through. Doesn't make any sense to me. If you're going to help pull this group and you're Jan Hertz and you're racing for general classification because he's just down about 6 minutes on GC. So if Pseudo Quick-Step won general classification, then Jan Hertz should be pulling and rotating through. They get the front group, the 3rd group up to the 2nd group, and they call Julian Alaphilippe out of that 2-man break and have him come back. And then they start putting guys on the front with others. You know Filippo Ganna will ride the front because he's got Narvaez here. This is the perfect finish. Remember, he won stage 1 against Tadej Pogačar. So it's a perfect finish at 20%, 1.5 kilometers for Narvaez there to be able to win the stage. So you know Ganna will ride. You know you're going to have 3 Quick-Step guys there that'll ride. Bardiani have numbers. Movistar have numbers. It's perfect ideal right now if Jan Hertz works with Mari van Savenoff and Ganna to pull this group up to the next group. But it doesn't make sense if you're going to have Julian Alaphilippe up the road, because if you pull Filippo Ganna up to the 2nd group, that is Narvaez, well, we all know Filippo Ganna might just ride the front, start going TGV style, and pull back the Frenchman. Then it's all wasted energy. So I'm a little lost right here. I'm just like thinking, what's going on? Okay, they still come together. We're going to see both groups come together. We're going to call it 35 riders, but it's massive. It might be 40. I don't know what it is. 2 riders up the front. They got about a 30-second, 40-second gap, and it's all chaos happening back there with the 35 riders. Filippo Ganna was doing some work on the front and trying to set some tempo, but nobody else was really motivated. That's why we see Julian Alaphilippe and the Cometa rider Maestri up there is doing a fine job going pull for pull with Julian Alaphilippe. With the only time I saw Maestri in problems was that early when they started hitting one of the steep climbs. We'll see the Frenchman have to look back. He'll have to back off the throttle a little bit, let Maestri get back on. But otherwise, if they weren't going up a super steep climb, Maestri was going pull for pull. pretty much anyways, with Julian Alaphilippe. Now we go back and what's happening? Well, we're coming into about 100 kilometers to go. And this is when I want you to look at the virtual leadership here on the GC here of the Giro d'Italia. And we'll see Jan Hertz has moved into 4th position. Why is that important? Well, let's go back and look at the peloton because 5th position on GC, Bahrain victorious, Tibieri. And remember, he pulled before on the climbs with his whole team's chasing all the time to drop Keanu Brooks or do something with Bardet in the breakaway. Well, now they're on the front. It's 100 kilometers to go, and they're pulling right now. Well, I'm thinking Tadej Pogacar. I'm thinking you might not even need teammates here because Bahrain Victorious is going to ride for you on every mountain stage here at the Giro all the way into stage 21. So Tadej Pogacar smiling at the cameras and he's saying, "Hi, Mom," as Bahrain Victorious is riding at the front. Now, what's happening up in this chase group here just behind Julian Alaphilippe and Mikko Maestri? Well, there starts having some attacks from Narvaez and from Filippo Ganna. Now, right here, this is another tactical nightmare here for knuckleheads Jan Hertz and for Mari van Savenhoff. I'm sorry, man. I know you're my teammates, son, but you guys are knuckleheads. You're missing the move from Ineos. You two had to be all over Filippo Ganna and Narvaez, and you're missing everything and either pulling it back or getting lucky that someone else is pulling it back. Well, that happens for a bit. Then we'll see Scaroni go up the road. And we'll see Ewan Costou go up the road. So it's 2 guys chasing 2 guys. But then Ewan Costou ends up having a chain problem. And he has to drop out of the group. As that's happening, we're going to see 8 guys break away from that group of 35. And we'll see it's Jonathan Narvaez in there. But guess what? Soudal Quickstep didn't make it. Guys, you guys had to make this move no matter how you're racing. If you're racing for GC, for Jan Hertz, or you're trying to help Julian Alaphilippe win the stage, you got to be in this move because if you're in the move, it's going to deter these guys, these 9 guys up here chasing. It's going to deter them from doing any work. Now, I told you, Ewan Costou ended up having a bike problem with his chain. He pulled over to the side of the road. He doesn't get back up to the front group. So it becomes 9 guys up there chasing 2 guys, Julian Alaphilippe and Maestri up there. And as the 9 guys are chasing without Soudal Quickstep, nobody's doing any work back there except for Bardiani. Bardiani's on the front, and it takes about another 5-10 kilometers before Arkea Samsic get on the front and start helping. But you guys have waited too long. Movistar had 2 riders in this group. They didn't do any work. FDJ had 2 riders in this group. They didn't do any work. And when I take you back up to the group of 9, out of those 9 riders up there, 8 of them have teammates in the back group back there. So you know they're not going to work either. So if you got numbers, you got to get on the front. You got to pull. If you miss this move, you got to get on the front. You got to pull. If you're Jan Hertz and you're virtual into 4th place here on the general classification, well, nobody's working, so you might as well just give that up because Bahrain Victorious is going full gas back there. And you guys are losing time both on Julian Alaphilippe, Mikko Maestri, and you're losing time on the 9 guys behind. That got Julian Alaphilippe's gap down to about 1 minute and 30 seconds, 1 minute 45 seconds. It fluctuated up to the highest point. Then when we start coming into about 30 kilometers to go, that's when it starts dropping down. It's getting closer to a minute, closer to a minute. We start getting into the last and final climb here with 11 kilometers to go. Julian Alaphilippe and Mikko Maestri are holding about a 47-second gap on the 9 chasers behind. But what's happening in the peloton as they came into about 30 kilometers to go? Bahrain Victorious is on the front. They're hitting some roundabouts. The road's starting to get a little flatter, and it's blowing up. Look at the helicopter angle as we see the group, the peloton back there split up in groups. But we look up front. Well, Bahrain Victorious has been on the front now for 70 kilometers, so I can't imagine they got a whole lot of power left on the front, but they're trying, but they're not bringing back any time on Julian Alaphilippe and Mikko Maestri up there, so I assume they're not too strong, but we'll see that Bora Hansgrohe and Ineos will close back up on the UAE team members who are on the wheel, Bahrain Victorious, and now the peloton's all back together. Now, let's go up to 11.5 kilometers to go because, like I said, Julian Alaphilippe and Mikko Maestri starting this last and final climb. Julian Alaphilippe knows this is the last climb, so he puts in acceleration. Mikko Maestri, the Pulti Cometa rider, he comes out the back, and Julian Alaphilippe's flying solo. Now he's got to do just a couple hundred meters before it tops off at the top there, and then it's going to drop down before it goes right back up, and we hit 20% sections. So the Frenchman's shaking out his legs here with about 10 kilometers to go. We look back at the chase group as they're hitting the climb. It's Valgren that's putting in some accelerations, and then we start seeing the group of 9 blow up. It's Hess Limrace, Dion Smith coming out the back. The group's getting smaller. We'll call it 7 guys, but it's only going to stay that way for a little bit longer because Simon Clark is hurting. When we look up front, and Narvaez is up there. We see Valgren is up there. Quintin Hermans is in this group, and Scaroni is in the group for Astana. Now, we got 5 guys up here, but one still dangling off the back. That's Simon Clark. We go up to the front, to the summit here, with about 10 kilometers to go. Julian Alaphilippe's got about a 40-second, 43-second gap, so he's only lost like 3-5 seconds on the leaders behind. Now, we see Maestri getting caught there with Quintin Hermans on the front. He's pulling full gas. Then Quintin Hermans starts causing another acceleration here and another separation, as it's him and Narvaez there that's splitting off. Once we see the split, we know it's 2 guys chasing one up there. Julian Alaphilippe's flying down the descent. See how narrow it is with the hillside on each. The road's totally technical. He comes into about 5 kilometers to go. They're going to exit the descent here, and now they're on the big roads as Julian Alaphilippe's going full gas through the left turn. Then he's sprinting coming out of left. He's going full gas into the right. You see him sprinting again, and the Frenchman is looking magnificent. Never did I see anything that looked like fatigue on the Frenchman's face or on his body throughout this whole stage, as now he's going solo. He hits 3 kilometers to go. Then we see the highlights of what he did on that last and final climb back there. Guys, he pulled 450 watts average at 1.5 kilometer climb with 20% sections, and he maxed out at 610 watts. Now he's at 3 kilometers to go. The 2 chasers behind, they're at about 38 seconds. They can't bring any time back on Julian Alaphilippe. So once he flies into the final 1 kilometer, he knows he's going to win stage 12 here at the Giro d'Italia for Pseudo Quick-Step. And as he comes into the finish, he's going to sit up, kiss his wrist. He's going to spread the arms out with #1 fingers up there because he knows he's the best up here on stage 12. Then he does the big, huge right arm swing as he celebrates a victory. Stage 12 of the Giro d'Italia. Coming back here to round out the podium, well, Quintin Hermans led it out into the final, but Narvaez, he's fast on the pedal, so he comes through for second. Quintin Hermans gets third. And then when I take you all the way back inside the top 10, 9th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's Maestri back there, the Cometa rider that rode throughout this whole stage with Julian Alaphilippe. He didn't win the stage, but you know he's got a fine story. Now when we go back and look at the peloton, when they hit that climb, what happened? Bora Hansgrohe led into it, but UAE team members took over the front with Gross Schartner, Rafael Majka, Tadej Pogacar, of course, is there, and they set tempo all the way into the finish of the stage, losing somewhere around 5 minutes, but not changing anything on the general classification. So when we start looking after the stage, when we look at the interviews from Julian Alaphilippe, he says, no, it wasn't planned. He thanks all of his teammates for doing the first 60 kilometers of the flat part of this stage. Dan Lloyd, you got it wrong. You said in your comments with 126 kilometers to go that Julian Alaphilippe gambled by not covering any of the early moves. Dan Lloyd, he did not gamble at all. His team plans were just like on stage 10, cover everything along the flat section of the course, because it is a gamble when the brakes go on the flat section. But if you can get the Frenchmen and your climbers like Jan Hertz and Maury Van Savenhoff into the climb with a shot at still winning today's stage 12, which they did, that eliminates the options of a gamble of getting in the break. And that's why the Frenchman thanked his teammates for riding 60 kilometers on the front. And of course, thanked his partner in French and his son for having support through him for all the rough times here the last 2 years since the LBL crash, I'm sure is what he's talking about. And all of the unfaith and lost faith from his manager, Patrick Lefebvre. Payback is, well, we all know what payback is, but Julian Alaphilippe got it, and Patrick Lefebvre's going to have to pay for it if he wants to keep it. Either way, this was a fantastic stage here for the Frenchman, Julian Alaphilippe. He's back. Guys, when I look at his form, it was something amazing. And when I hear the interview from Tim Miller said, well, Lulu's being Lulu. And what's he talking about that? Well, just like he said, Lulu's attacking, doing crazy attacks. And he says that the Frenchman, Julian Alaphilippe, was supposed to sit up and come back for Jan Hertz once he got up into that group. But Lulu's Lulu, as Tim Miller said, his words, not mine. So Lulu, congratulations on a fantastic stage 12. It's marvelous to see you back on top. I love watching your style. Man, you were crazy and you were a knucklehead out here today, but it sure is fun to watch, and your form looks like it's back on marvelous shape because Bahrain Victorious was back there chasing full gas. They didn't bring any time back on the Frenchman with Maestri pulling, but Julian Alaphilippe, remember, if Maestri stops pulling, and he probably should have, all of a sudden, you're going to have to do much more work, and most likely that group of 9 catches you, and then your legs are done. And you guys already dropped your GC guy, Jan Hertz, back there, and Maury Van Savenhoff. So Pseudo Quick-Step, absolutely knuckleheads, but we love it up here on the Butterfly Effect because I love knuckleheads. And Garrett?
They're great views.
Garrett loves knuckleheads too, and Julian Alaphilippe, keep it coming when the form's like this, and when the form drops a little bit, just be a little bit more calm, and you can still win big bike races and still keep Patrick Lefebvre paying you big bucks. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.